So as you think about returning to New York, we'll use New York as the test case here, recognizing that other locations around the world will have different circumstances. But when you think about the return to the New York office, how will it be different from what it was before? Viscerally, as I'm walking into the office and observing business activity being conducted, what might be some of the differences that I might see?
Well, if we're still in an environment where you got to maintain social distancing, and the office is being set up, and I was in the office last week for a few days, and there is different protocols. The number of people, when you got a building that you got 2,000 people, the number of people in an elevator that can take you up to floors. Right now these elevator cabs are pretty good size, but we will only allow 3 people in an elevator cab. So there'll be less people in the environment, in the office environment. I think a lot of different companies are going to reevaluating their real estate needs, and do they need as much office space as they did pre-pandemic? And the answer is no. So I think that there's going to be, and if there's functions of the business that most of the time those individuals will be working remotely, with occasionally coming in to the office for meetings, we've got to have, it's like a hoteling type of setup where they can have a plug-in space that they can connect into the systems and networks, and we'll have those spaces available. But hopefully it's, you've been in the office in 25 Madison. It is an open space. The creative functions, the label functions, I think most of those functions will be working in the office. We're building studio capabilities in our office in New York, and we want our artists in the office creating content, both audio content, visual content. So hopefully we'll see that creative activity in the office, but it'll be different in that there'll be less people, and they'll be more aware of the distancing and things like that.
Kevin, as you think about some of the learnings, you referenced learnings that you've been experiencing in this time. What of those learnings do you think will carry forward, I'll say on a more permanent basis, into the future in the way that you operate?
One of the things, and this is, it gets back to, you work for an organization, you feel part of a company and a structure. And when you go working remotely, you lose that connection of what the company, you can lose that connection of what the company is. So one of the learnings is you've got to stay connected as broadly as possible, in my job, with the operations, around the world, in New York, the functional areas in New York. And there's a lot more effort because you're not in the office seeing people day in and day out, that you go to the cafeteria, you have a cup of coffee, there's just a lot of interaction in the hallways that you don't have when everybody's working from, some home office setup. So you've got to be much more diligent in terms of that connectivity to stay. And it's really important for the people, because the employee base wants to feel connected to the company. So even the communications that we put out on a regular basis, it's much more robust now in terms of staying connected, letting people know what's happening with the organization. The meetings are much more frequent in terms of the connection, but it works both ways. In my job, I've got to really make an effort. My meeting schedule is much more intense. It has been much more intense over the past 3 months than it has been, just because the organization of getting things and who I've got to speak with and time zones that I've got to manage through. It takes a lot more doing in organizations. But if you're working in the digital marketing area, those individuals, or in the finance or IT area, you've got to be much more proactive about, trying to plug in and stay connected to the people that you typically work with in the company that you're a part of. So that's one of the learnings. So the learnings going forward is if we're in an environment where we only have 50% of the people back on a post-COVID working blueprint, the 50% that are not in the office day in and day out, the connection with that group of peers, so that they still feel part of a company, is really important. We don't want, with more flexibility in how we're going to work going forward, we don't want the people that are working in the remote environment to feel like they're not part and connected to the organization, because that wouldn't be good. So that's, I think that's a key learning.
So as you think about the future, is the situation one such that post-COVID, let's hopefully pass through this period of time. Are we at an inflection point for the industry where some changes were accelerated, or would you expect that the future will kind of snap back on the trend line that it existed before the pandemic hit?
I think it's going to snap back to a certain degree, but it won't snap back to the full extent. It's going to, there's going to be, like I said, there's going to be a lot of learnings. I've got a project that's going on, Jeff, right now that we initiated, and it's really to try to get some deep thinking around what this company, our company, and what the structure of our company is going to look like in a post-COVID environment. And it's in how we work, like I said, the tech sector, they've been working remotely. They're much more flexible. We're a creative company. We support a lot of talent, and we've got to work closely with that talent. So we can't become, and one thing I don't want to become, is a virtual company overnight. So we've got to have that, connective tissue in a collaborative office environment that our talent feels comfortable coming in and creating and collaborating and developing marketing plans and video content and all those things that make for a successful release of some music into the marketplace. We've got to continue with that, but we also have to have some vision on how we can be effective with allowing flexibility, because to the extent, if you're working in New York City, a lot of people are commuting from outside the city, and that commutation is it's time that they could be spent doing other things that are productive, whether it's the family and the balance with their family, or so we want to provide that that flexibility, and we will provide that flexibility in what becomes the new normal coming out of this pandemic. And like I said, we have a project that's underway that I'll have more to report as we move forward and get some more details built around it.